Hey, Culligan!
Now get a $100 U.S. savings bond free when you purchase selected Culligan equipment. Call your Culligan man for details today.
Nearly 60 years ago, rural electric cooperatives brought electricity to small towns and farmyards for the first time. Today, your electric cooperative does more than supply safe and reliable electric service. We also bring the most technologically advanced services to homes and farms as well as to business and industry. We make communities stronger through economic development, and we help you use energy more efficiently. We're your member-owned electric cooperative, and we're working for you.
Cooler nights, but a warm-up in sight, right?
A warm-up, but beware for tonight. It's going to be very chilly outdoors by 10 o'clock. Already 49 degrees. The low falling off to 39. Some patchy frost is possible over the northern third of the state. Tomorrow, 69, 77 for Thursday. Friday, back into the 80s. Now, there is a chance of rain late on Friday into Saturday morning, but most of the weekend still does look very pleasant with temperatures in the 70s.
Good. We'll keep it that way. Thanks, Pam.
Well, that's our news for now. Thanks for joining us.
We'll leave you tonight with a look at Iowa's fall colors on this first day of fall.
Photographer John Clow headed towards Winterset today to bring us this look at central Iowa's fall foliage.
Have a good evening. We'll see you again tonight at 10.
Look at oatmeal crisp with raisins. Big flakes bursting with hearty oatmeal baked to a brown sugar crunch, chewy, juicy raisins, and crunchy almonds. So much to savor, no one can race through a bowl. Oatmeal crisp with raisins, the taste that refuses to be rushed. And here's news about oatmeal crisp. It's now oatmeal crisp with almonds. Twice the almonds for a double crunchy taste. New oatmeal crisp with almonds.
Tonight, it's a night of premieres. First on Full House.
I get the window.
They have flown alone.
My little girls must be scared to death.
You'll be driving 6 white horses when he comes.
On the season premiere of Full House. Then from the creator of Full House.
How do I get this chair off my butt?
Comes a show TV Guide loves.
The last sub we had took his pants off.
Starring the dynamite Mark Curry.
Yes.
It's the premiere of Hanging with Mr. Cooper.
Here comes Roseanne.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. We're going to begin tonight with one of the most enduring wounds from the war in Southeast Asia. Yesterday and today, for the first time since they were in office during the war, former members of President Nixon's cabinet have been testifying under oath about whether they knew of any American servicemen left behind in Southeast Asia when the United States was finally able to get out. Yesterday, James Schlesinger, who'd been Mr. Nixon's director of CIA and defense secretary, said he thought there was a chance that men had been left behind. Today, the investigating Senate committee asked Henry Kissinger, the man who was at Mr. Nixon's side. Here's ABC's James Walker.
Kissinger angrily denied the Nixon administration had knowingly abandoned missing U.S. servicemen in Southeast Asia in order to conclude a deal ending the war.
That allegation is a flat-out lie.
Kissinger called it unforgivable libel. He strongly disagreed with former CIA Director James Schlesinger, who had testified there was evidence in 1973 that Americans would be left behind.
I do not believe he can find one memorandum, one phone conversation, one meeting, or one anything in which he expressed at the time the views he expressed yesterday.
Kissinger acknowledged that while he was negotiating with the North Vietnamese in Paris, he realized they had not provided a full accounting of missing Americans. But he said his bargaining leverage had been seriously weakened by a Congress that had cut off funding for the war and by anti-war demonstrators, among them Navy Lieutenant John Kerry. Kerry returned from combat in Vietnam and testified before Congress. Now he is committee chairman.
You suggest to me that those who oppose the war somehow took away options from you.
I don't happen to believe that this dialogue is very helpful because it refights the Vietnam War.
I wore the uniform. I was in Vietnam, and I came back, and from the day I got back here, I expressed concern about my comrades in arms.
Kissinger said he never saw any confirmed reports Americans were being kept in Vietnam after the war ended. But he now says he doesn't discount the possibility that some were left behind elsewhere in Southeast Asia.
I think it's improbable that any are alive today. I honestly did not think there were any alive in Vietnam when the war ended. I have always kept open the possibility in my mind that there were some in Laos.
Kissinger suggested the U.S. continue the policy it has followed for the last 20 years to withhold diplomatic recognition and economic aid from Vietnam and Laos until there is a full accounting of missing Americans. James Walker, ABC News, Washington.
It's a fact of life we all know in this country that the debate about Vietnam snaps people to attention everywhere. It certainly had a profound effect today on those at the Vietnam Memorial and among those who have been keeping the flame for the 2,266 Americans still listed as missing in action. Here's ABC's Bob Jamieson.
At Washington's Vietnam Memorial, the monument designed to help heal the wounds caused by the war, the hearings revived those divisions.
I think it's horrendous that our nation could do that we could knowingly leave men over there to suffer and eventually die.
No, I don't believe Henry Kissinger. I don't believe Nixon.
Personally, I have a hard time believing that happened. I have great faith in Henry Kissinger.
For organizations representing families of those listed as missing, who have loudly pressed the issue for 2 decades, there was a bitter sense of vindication.
We knew that this issue was not being seriously pursued after the list of POWs came out in 1973. We screamed madly. Nobody paid attention.
For family members like Deborah Robertson Brantley, the hearings revived their frustration. Her father, Air Force Colonel John Robertson, shot down over Vietnam, was one of 3 men believed shown in a photo that in part led to the hearings. The photo was said to show Robertson and 2 other MIAs alive. Major Albro Lundy and Navy Lieutenant Larry Stevens both shot down over Laos. But the photo was later proven to be a fake. Robertson's daughter felt those who testified at the hearings treated the missing like so many abandoned tanks or rifles.
And they're talking about something that is disposable. You know, they're talking about fathers and sons and brothers and human beings.
Well, they've lied to us, and they've shown they've lied to us, and they've admitted they've lied to us.
The hearings did not produce a resolution of their father's fates, only a renewal of their anger. Bob Jamieson, ABC News, New York.
In a moment, presidential politics. Our political focus tonight is the Ross Perot factor. Why he is still a player and how much of a player does he want to be? On the American agenda tonight, the candidates' positions on infant health care and preschool education. And Congress votes to put controls on cable television prices.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Dow.
Do you really think naphtha can be replaced with a non-flammable solvent?
In 1929, she was the only woman and the only PhD chemist in the physics lab. But over the years, she was responsible for 29 different patents.
Hello, I'm Sylvia Stacer.
Dr. Stacer created a new career path for women and for her company. The same company that leads the nation in patents granted to women over the last decade. We think Dr. Stacer would be pleased.
Dow lets you do great things.
Who are you going to call the most this month?
My brother in Minnesota for advice.
With Sprint's new program, The Most, first, you get 20% off whoever you call the most each month.
My mom in California.
Second, you get 20% off calls to any of the millions of other Sprint customers automatically.
His grandmother, his mother.
Since I found out I was pregnant, I've been calling everybody.
Gee, seems like everybody's having a baby these days.
Campaign watch tonight. Governor Clinton has been in Lansing, Michigan, where the first presidential debate was supposed to take place later tonight. He accused President Bush of ducking out because his economic record is indefensible. President Bush has spent the day circling Arkansas, holding airport rallies in 6 surrounding states, and using some of the strongest language yet to attack Mr. Clinton's record as Arkansas governor. The debate organizers have issued a new invitation for next Tuesday. The Clinton campaign accepted. The Bush campaign has again rejected the debate commission's format, but says it is willing to talk to the Clinton people about alternatives. And guess who's been tantalizing the electorate again? Ross Perot has been going around for the last several days saying he really wants to sell his economic plan. He really wants Bush and Clinton to address the deficit. Today, on CBS this morning, Mr. Perot said he should never have pulled out.
In retrospect, I think I made a mistake because they really didn't face the issues. But it's all in the hands of the volunteers. They're evaluating it now. We'll know in a few days. As soon as we know, we'll let you know.
And Mr. Perot is in our campaign focus tonight. One former member of the Perot campaign told us Mr. Perot's possible re-entry is an ego trip. He wants to change his image as a quitter. Here's ABC's Morton Dean.
We fully expect him to come back full force.
If you call Perot headquarters today, you pay for it, not Perot. The free 800 number has been disconnected.
Are you on our database?
But he is paying $4 million in August alone to keep his political operation alive, which includes headquarters in each state and a voter registration drive.
A president who will be the people's choice.
His volunteer army, depleted and demoralized by his decision in July not to run, is gaining some strength and confidence, thanks to his repeated hints about becoming an official candidate after all, his best-selling book about the economy, and his success in getting on the ballot.
When he quit, I kind of got disappointed with him and left for a while, and then I came back, and, you know, I decided, well, he is running because he's on the ballot.
The Republicans certainly know he is running, especially here in Texas, where a poll indicates a three-way deadlock in what was Bush country.
As he is kind of klutzing up the system right now, you think about your strategy. You can zero in on a Bill Clinton, but what do you do about someone who maybe is in the race and someone who's maybe not in the race?
What the GOP is doing is mailing a brochure to 250,000 Texans who had signed Perot petitions. The message? That Bush and Perot are philosophical twins on many major issues. The Clinton organization professes not to be overly concerned, but both sides must be worried about which way the Perot support will cut, even if his candidacy does not become official.
Clearly he's going to get his 5-6% of the vote. Whatever Perot's vote will be, is going to be larger than the difference between Bush and Clinton.
And that scares both sides, who remember 4 years ago when a dozen states were decided by a margin of 5 percentage points or less. Morton Dean, ABC News, Dallas.
There was good economic news today. Low interest rates have finally lured people back into the housing market. Housing starts went up more than 10% last month. It is the first advance in 3 months and the biggest increase in a year and a half. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials lost nearly 40 points to close at 3280, and the trading was heavy. In a moment, the Congress votes to put what you pay for cable TV back under government control.
Chrysler has found a new way to develop cars. Instead of designers, engineers, manufacturers, and parts suppliers working separately, they now work as one in something called a platform team.
The result? A totally new automotive architecture called Cab Forward. It'll influence how cars are designed into the next century.
Introducing the Chrysler Concorde, the Dodge Intrepid, and the Eagle Vision. In the car business, you lead, follow, get out of the way.
How could this happen? They've taken the secret.
Europeans are upset. The Kellogg's Mueslix cereal uses their secret recipe.
This we kept in the family.
After all, they've been guarding this delicious secret forever. Ah, but this luscious blend of sweet fruit, crunchy nuts, and crisp whole grains was destined to become Kellogg's Mueslix.
Angelina, you told?
It wasn't me. I swear.
Kellogg's Mueslix, the European secret for great taste.
Everybody needs some money sometime.
Only Western Union can get money to over 16,000 locations in minutes. Nobody else even comes close. Western Union, the fastest way to send money.
Doctor.
Is it right for me?
Habitrol. It's a patch.
You know the patch.
Habitrol.
You know,
Habitrol.
It's a patch.
Habitrol.
Habitrol.
Habitrol nicotine transdermal system, available by prescription only.
Thank you, doctor.
In other news today, Congress has come down on the side of all those who think that cable television has become too expensive. By an overwhelming margin, the Senate has voted to reimpose federal controls on the cable television industry. Since controls were removed in 1984, costs have shot up, and so have complaints that the service has become worse. Here's ABC's Bill Greenwood.
The Glass family lives in a part of Montgomery County, Maryland, where normal TV reception is poor. So they consider cable service a necessity. But it has become an expensive necessity.
In the last 3 years, our cable bills have almost doubled.
If the purpose of deregulation was to raise prices, they've done a very effective job. If it was for competition, they haven't done any, it hasn't been effective at all.
Since deregulation 8 years ago, consumer groups say cable operators have overcharged consumers by $6 billion. The legislation passed by Congress would establish a system to determine whether price increases were justified, require better service, and allow local TV stations to charge cable systems for carrying their programs. Consumer groups say that will keep rates under control. But cable operators say it would add more than $1 billion to their operating expenses and force them to raise rates. Both sides mounted expensive ad campaigns to influence the vote.
Because out-of-control cable costs are one problem we can solve.
If this law passes, your monthly bill for basic cable will go up, not down. Well, if that's consumer protection, how come you're getting soaked?
The outcome in the Senate was not even close.
The yeas are 74, the nays are 25, and it is passed.
President Bush is expected to veto the bill, saying re-regulation of cable is both costly and unnecessary. But given the margin of support in both the House and Senate, there appears to be enough votes to override a veto. Bill Greenwood, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
A federal appeals court has overturned Louisiana's abortion law, the toughest in any state. The law had banned virtually all abortions and would have sent offending doctors to prison. Louisiana's Attorney General says he's not sure the state will appeal to the Supreme Court because the most recent high court decisions on abortion have made it tougher to defend the provisions of the Louisiana law. In Massachusetts today, a former Roman Catholic priest was charged with at least 46 counts of sexual abuse. Father James Porter, who now lives in Minnesota, agreed to return to Massachusetts to face the charges. It was the ABC News broadcast Primetime Live that first reported the extent of the alleged abuse by Father Porter, hearing complaints from dozens of people in 3 states about incidents dating all the way back to the 1960s. ABC's Diane Sawyer reported the story then, and she has the latest developments.
Grand jury indicted James Porter, 46 separate indictments.
Today, in a courtroom in Washington County, Minnesota, the past rose up against Father James Porter, a moment his more than 60 accusers had waited a lifetime to hear.
He threw me on the floor and raped me once or twice a week.
Kept telling me that God was watching.
It was last July that the now-grown children of parishes in New England and Minnesota started coming forward one by one.
He molested or raped every kid he could get his hands on.
Frank Fitzpatrick was the first to speak out about Porter and sexual abuse. Then this private investigator relentlessly tracked Porter down.
When did you stop molesting children? When did you stop? Well, as far as I know now, I mean, for sure, it's way back in the 67.
Primetime reported that the Catholic Church knew about Porter, but moved him on from parish to parish, finally to Minnesota, saying that he was cured. We also discovered new complaints about Porter, made to police in the community where he now lives, Oakdale, Minnesota. And last July, we set out to talk to Porter ourselves.
Mr. Porter, may I speak with you on behalf of the people of Massachusetts?
Get the cops. The cops.
Today, after his indictment, James Porter was extradited to Boston to face, for the first time, the grown-ups who say he must pay for the pain of all those children 30 years ago.
And we all hope and feel that proper justice is brought to the individual, and only then can the healing within the group begin.
Diane Sawyer, ABC News, New York.
There has been a settlement in a widely publicized baby swap case. A federal court in Florida has ordered a hospital to pay at least $6.5 million to a teenage girl, this one, and the man who raised her, because the hospital failed to send her home with her natural parents. $3.5 million has already been awarded to the natural parents after the baby they were sent home with died. When we come back, President Bush versus Governor Clinton on the best way to give America's poor children a good start in life. Our American Agenda.
Wilfred Brimley for Quaker Oats.
Every day should start with Quaker Oats. Every day should feel this good. Nothing cold can make you feel the way hot oatmeal could.
I feel real good because I eat real good. These hot whole oats and Quaker Oats are nourishing, pure and powerful.
Every day should feel this good.
More tea, Daddy?
Sure, honey. Fill her up.
A short while ago, Mike Ward had a headache, but he couldn't postpone his tea party with one of the town's best hostesses, so he took a Motrin IB. The same medicine as in the Motrin doctors have prescribed for years, but in non-prescription strength. And now that his headache's gone, he can concentrate on the things that really matter.
Good tea, huh, Daddy?
It's excellent tea, Becky. Excellent.
Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
Now at Red Lobster.
Well, we've got a new special tonight. It's got everything. Petite lobster and 2 kinds of shrimp for just $10.99.
Start with petite lobster tails, sweet and delicious. Add our savory scampi. Then our famous grilled shrimp to top off a terrific dinner.
It's new.
It's petite lobster and shrimp 2 different ways for a limited time, just $10.99.
It's delicious.
And it's only at Red Lobster.
With wrinkled brows, the old have singing, deep sorrow, great joy. What does it mean? The touch, the feel, the fabric of our lives. The touch, the feel of cotton, the fabric of our lives.
On the American Agenda tonight, and we'll continue to take this approach right through the election, a very close look at how the 2 presidential candidates indicate they will deal with the issues that you have identified as the most important ones. Tonight, improving the quality of life for poor children. We're not limited to what President Bush and Governor Clinton are saying in the campaign because they have public records. We asked our agenda reporter, Rebecca Chase, to go to Governor Clinton's home state of Arkansas and spend time in one county on which both men have had an impact.
Crittenden County, Arkansas, on the banks of the Mississippi. In communities like this, where too many poor children begin life already disadvantaged, government programs have proven crucial to helping them catch up. We will look at 2 basic areas, infant health care and preschool education. Infant health care. The U.S. has one of the highest infant mortality rates in the industrialized world. President Bush says one way he has addressed this problem is by spending more to immunize children.
Overall, federal funding for immunizations has more than doubled since '88.
He has also expanded WIC, a nutrition program that provides food coupons for 5 million poor pregnant women and children.
We've increased the funding by 47% to $2.8 billion next year.
In Crittenden County under Bush, the number of families on WIC has doubled. Pediatric nurse Vicki Von Bachman sees the impact.
Most of my babies would go hungry without WIC. I mean, it's that simple. There is no way they could buy $3 worth of formula a day.
But even with the increases, WIC reaches only 2/3 of those eligible. When Bill Clinton became governor, Arkansas had one of the worst infant mortality rates in the nation. He has made infant health a priority.
In human services and health care, we have a great deal to do. 19 countries do a better job of bringing babies into the world alive than we do.
Clinton expanded prenatal care from 18 to nearly all 74 counties. Under Clinton, Arkansas's infant mortality rate was cut in half and is now near the national average. But the state's record is still among the worst on the number of women receiving early prenatal care and babies born seriously underweight. So an educational campaign is underway.
The
Don't deliver a statistic, bring home a healthy baby.
As president, Clinton says he would make these problems a national priority, starting with spending another $1 billion to fully fund the federal WIC program. The second issue, preschool education, ensuring that all children are prepared to start school. Under Bush, funding for Head Start, the preschool program for poor children, will have doubled by the end of the year.
For the first time in the program's history, we can support now Head Start for all eligible 4-year-old children.
The problem is that Head Start is also supposed to include 3- and 5-year-olds. So in Crittenden County, like the rest of the nation, Head Start will reach only 1/3 of those eligible.
It would be nice if you could serve like 100 children. It would be so good because we have that many applications every year.
Clinton says as president, he would spend the $5 billion needed to fully fund Head Start.
As a father and a student of education, I know that a lot of life's work is done on children by the time they start school, and we have too many who are starting in unequal positions.
As governor, Clinton established a $10 million state preschool program that reaches as many children as the federal Head Start program in Arkansas. It extends beyond the classroom to the home, where trained workers teach parents.
Are these pictures the same or different?
How to teach their children.
In what way are they different?
One's putting over.
In comparing both candidates' records, President Bush has substantially increased money for cost-effective and popular programs, although the largest increases have been proposed only as the election approaches and still do not come close to meeting the need. Governor Clinton has a long history of being an activist on these issues and has promised to spend considerably more. In Crittenden County, these efforts, federal and state, have improved the lives of thousands of children. But there are many reminders here of how much more could be done. Rebecca Chase, ABC News, Crittenden County, Arkansas.
Tomorrow night, family leave and child care, two very controversial subjects on which Clinton and Bush disagree. And in a moment, Murphy's Law of Politics.
This is one way to cut some fat from your family's diet.
This is a whole new way. Introducing new Promise Ultra, the spread that's the absolute lowest in fat of any leading brand.
That's right. Promise Ultra is the lowest in fat.
Plus, it has 65% fewer calories than margarine and a light, delicate taste. So cut some fat from your family's diet a whole new way with Promise Ultra. Get heart smart.
Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited. With an available 220 horsepower V8 and exclusive standard driver's side airbag, no other vehicle gives you so much latitude.
Grandma's got a date. What's a date?
Closeness. You might hesitate if you wore a diaper. So Johnson & Johnson created Serenity Guards. Bladder control protection so advanced, it holds as much as something 5 times its size and stays dry, locking liquid in. And now there's Serenity Super Plus with even more super absorbance. So if you've been looking for extra protection, give yourself hugs for discovering Serenity Super Plus.
And you want the world, and you want it now. The best place to get it is ABC's World News Now with Aaron Brown and Lisa McCree. Overnight.
Finally tonight, Murphy Brown. No surprise in one respect, surely. CBS News says nearly half of those watching television saw last night's program. Given the running feud between Vice President Quayle and the producers and star of Murphy Brown, most of the country knew in a general way what was coming last night. But not everyone anticipated the take no prisoners tone. Here's ABC's Jeff Greenfield.
Vice President Dan Quayle had some strong comments on what he termed a poverty of values, citing Murphy Brown as an example.
Last night, a fictional anchorwoman attacked a real vice president on her fictional TV news show, using real single parents, while the real vice president watched the fictional show in a room full of real single parents. What he and some 45 million other Americans saw was an avalanche of jokes aimed at the vice president.
This
This is the same guy who gave a speech at the United Negro College Fund and said what a waste it is to lose one's mind. Look, tomorrow he's probably going to get his head stuck in his golf bag and you'll be old news.
What some conservative critics saw was more proof of the relentlessly liberal nature of primetime TV, a trend that's as old as All in the Family and that's as recent as last week's episode of Roseanne, with its gloomy view of the economy.
Biggest day in the history of the shop, and the best I can do is not lose my house.
But what made Murphy Brown different was the dead-earnest frontal assault on a candidate for national office barely 6 weeks before the election.
Perhaps it's time for the Vice President to expand his definition and recognize that whether by choice or circumstance, families come in all shapes and sizes.
This is a rare opportunity for Hollywood and television to express its real visceral wrath at the enemy, which is the Republicans.
In the days before the episode ad, Vice President Quayle tried to show a sense of humor about the whole thing by recording a promo for Murphy Brown and by sending a note and a gift to the fictional baby. Today, he was claiming victory over the Hollywood elite.
I am convinced because of my speech several months ago on the poverty of values in this country, that Hollywood will begin to reflect our values better.
To keep this whole episode in perspective, we might want to remember one fact. Primetime TV may have been getting more liberal over the last 20 years, but for most of that period, voters have been electing conservatives to the White House. Jeff Greenfield, ABC News, New York.
And that is our report on World News Tonight. I'm Peter Jennings. Hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Good night.
Tonight, Aiden's getting too much attention.
So what can I do? What is it you want?
I want the spotlight. The spotlight. Now it's Luther's turn.
You're so anxious to get your name in the paper? Luther, meet the press.
It's an all-new coach.
Tell him I'm having a heart attack.
On its regular night tonight after a special Roseanne.
Pizza Hut delivery.
About the half-price pizzas you have. If I have one pizza at regular menu price, can I have another pizza at half price?
Half price.
So if I have a half dozen pizzas, I can have another half dozen pizzas at half price.
But that's not the half of it. Now you can have a medium pepperoni for $6.99.
$6.99?
$6.99. And any second pizza is half its regular menu price.
Wow, that's a deal and a half. Could you have them here by halftime?
Halftime?
Halftime.
Halftime.
Halftime, because I have half of mine, I have half the guys in the neighborhood over here for half-price pizza.